In this video, we're going to focus on linear equations, particularly in slope-intercept form. There's three forms that you need to be familiar with. The first one, which we just mentioned, is the slope-intercept form. It's the equation y is equal to mx plus b. So m represents the slope. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's the change in y divided by the change in x. So it's basically rise over run. B represents the y-intercept. The next equation that you need to be familiar with is the standard form equation. In standard form, you have this equation. ax plus by is equal to c. So for the standard equation, x and y are on the same side. For the slope-intercept equation, y is by itself on one side. The next equation that you need to be familiar with is the point-slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Now, let's say if you have the equation y is equal to 2x minus 3. What is the slope and the y-intercept of the equation? The slope, which is represented by m, is the number that's in front of x. So in this case, the slope is 2. Now, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept, which is represented by b, is basically this number, -3. Whenever you want to find the y-intercept of any equation, substitute x with 0 and solve for y. So if we replace 0 with x, or x with 0, we can see that y is going to equal -3. So therefore, the y-intercept, you can write it as -3 for y, or you can write it as an ordered pair, 0, -3. So how can we graph a linear equation in slope-intercept form? Once you've identified the slope and the y-intercept, here's what you need to do to graph it. Now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to plot the y-intercept, which is 0, -3. When x is 0 on the y-axis. So this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. So 0, -3 is at that point. Now, we can use the slope to find the next point. The slope is 2, which is the same as 2 over 1, which is rise over run. So we need to rise 2 units up and then travel 1 unit to the right. If we do that, that should take us to the point 1, -1. So let's do it again. Let's go up 2 units and 1 to the right. So we should be at 2, 1. And if we go up 2 units, 1 to the right, then we should be at 3, 5. And then we could connect these points with a line. So that's how you can graph a linear equation in slope-intercept form. Plot the y-intercept and then use the slope to find the other points. Try this one. Y is equal to -3x plus 4. Go ahead and graph this equation. So what is the slope and the y-intercept for this graph? The slope is the number in front of x, so the slope is -3. And as we mentioned before, the y-intercept is this number, which is 4. So we're going to start by plotting the y-intercept. So that's at 4 on the y-axis. Now the slope is -3. So that means that it's -3 over 1. So the rise is negative, which means that we need to go down 3 units and then 1 unit to the right. So the next point should be at 1, 1. And then if we go down 3 over 1, we should be approximately around 2, -2. Now granted, we can also make a table of values. If we plot 0, or if you plug in 0 into the equation, -3 times 0 is 0 plus 4. We get the first point. If you replace x with 1, -3 times 1 is -3 plus 4. We have the point 1, 1. If you plug in 2, -3 times 2 is -6 plus 4. That's -2. And so you can get these 3 points. You can add another point if you want to. If we go 1 to the right, down 3, we should be at 3, -5. So now we can connect these points with a line. And so that's how you can graph it. Now what if we have fractions? Consider this equation. Y is equal to 3 over 4 x minus 5. How would you graph it? So just like before, all we need is the slope and the y-intercept. Notice that the slope is 3 over 4. So the rise is 3, the run is 4, and the y-intercept is still -5. So let's plot the y-intercept first, which is over here. And we said the rise is 3, the run is 4. So when you go 4 to the right. So that's going to put us at the point 4, -2. And if we go up 3 over 4, we may need to extend the graph more. That should put us somewhere. We should be at 8, 1. But there's really not enough space to graph it, so I'm just going to draw a line between these 2 points. And so that's the general shape of this line. Now, let's say if we have an equation that looks like this. 2x minus 5y is equal to 10. What is the slope and the y-intercept of this equation, and how can we graph it? Notice that this equation is in standard form. ax plus by is equal to c. We can convert it to slope-intercept form. To do that, simply solve for y. So let's move the 2x to the other side. Let's subtract both sides by 2x. So on the left side, all we have is simply -5y. On the right side, we have -2x plus 10. So our next step is to divide every term separately by -5. So over here, the -5 will cancel. -5 divided by -5 is 1. So we're just left with 1y, which is simply y. -2 divided by -5. The negative signs cancel, so it's simply 2 over 5. 10 divided by -5 is -2. So this is the equation in slope-intercept form. As we can see, the slope is the number in front of x, that's 2 over 5. And the y-intercept is this number, it's -2. But now, how can we graph the equation in standard form? We know how to graph it in slope-intercept form, but how can we graph it in this form? And now, what we need to do is we need to find the x and the y-intercept. Once we find it, we can plot those 2 points and graph the equation. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's find the x-intercept first. To find the x-intercept, replace y with 0 and solve for x. 5 times 0 is 0, so 0 disappears, and we have 2x is equal to 10. So if we divide both sides by 2, you can see that 10 over 2 is 5. Therefore, the x-intercept is 5, 0. Now let's find the y-intercept. So this time we're going to replace x with 0 and solve for y. So negative 5y is equal to 10. This part simply disappears. So now we got to divide both sides by negative 5. So 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 2. So what we need to do is plot those 2 points. So here's 0, negative 2, and over here we have the point 5, 0. And then simply connect those 2 points with a line, and that's how you can graph an equation in standard form. And now it's your turn. Go ahead and graph this equation in standard form. So go ahead and find the x and y intercepts. So let's start with the x-intercept. Let's replace y with 0. So we can see that 3x is equal to 12. Since the 3 is multiplied by the x to separate them, we need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and therefore the x-intercept is 4, 0. So now let's find the y-intercept. Let's replace x with 0 this time. So 4y is equal to 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we have the point 0, 3. So the y-intercept is 3, the x-intercept is 4, and then we just need to connect the 2 points with a line, and that's how you can graph it. By the way, how would you graph this equation? X is equal to 3. So if x is equal to a number, what would you do to graph it? All you need to do is draw a vertical line at x equals 3. That's all you need to do. Now, what if you want to graph the equation y is equal to negative 1? How would you graph that equation? All you need to do is graph a horizontal line at negative 1. So whenever you see equations like this where x is equal to a number or y is equal to a number, simply graph it at that point. When y is equal to a number, it's going to be a horizontal line. If x is equal to a number, in this case 3, we have a vertical line at x equals 3. If you're given the slope and the y-intercept, how can you use that information to write the equation of the line? If you want to write the equation of the line, given these two pieces of information, use the slope-intercept form of the equation. So m is 5 and b is negative 2. So the equation is 5x minus 2 in slope-intercept form. Now, let's say if you're given a slope and a point. How can you write the equation of the line? There's two things that you can do. You can use the slope-intercept form, or you can use the point-slope form since you have a point and a slope. In this case, let's use the point-slope form equation. We're going to write it in all three forms: point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. And then I'm going to show you another way to solve this problem using the slope-intercept form equation. So let's start with the point-slope equation, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. x1 is 6, y1 is negative 3. So it's going to be y minus negative 3 equals 2 over 3 times x minus 6. So whenever you have two negative signs, it's going to change into a positive sign. Therefore, this is the equation in point-slope form. But now let's convert it to slope-intercept form. Let's distribute 2 over 3 to x and negative 6. 2 over 3 times x is simply 2/3 x. Now what is 2 over 3 times 6, or 6 over 1? You can multiply then divide, or divide and then multiply. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Or you could do 6 divided by 3, which is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. It's easier to divide first than multiply because you're dealing with smaller numbers. So now the last thing that we need to do to put it in slope-intercept form is we need to subtract both sides by 3. So the equation is y is equal to 2 over 3x minus 7. So we could see that the slope is still 2 over 3. And we can see that the y-intercept is negative 7. So now that we have it in slope-intercept form, how can we change it to standard form? In standard form, we have the equation ax plus by is equal to c. And typically, you normally don't have any fractions in standard form. A, b, and c are usually whole numbers, or I should say integers. So first, let's get rid of the fraction. Let's multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 2/3 x, the 3's cancel, and you're left over with 2x. And then 3 times 7 is 21. So now, let's subtract both sides by 2x. So what we have is negative 2x plus 3y is equal to negative 21. Now typically this number is usually positive, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1. So you can also write it like this: 2x minus 3y is equal to positive 21. And so this is the equation in standard form. Now there's another way that you can solve that same problem. So let's start from the beginning, where we were given the slope and a point 6, negative 3. So keep in mind the equation that we had in slope-intercept form was 2 over 3 x minus 7. So I'm going to show you another way to get this equation. So what you can do is you can start with the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We're going to replace y with negative 3 and x with 6, and we're going to plug in 2/3 into the equation. So negative 3 is equal to m, which is 2/3, times x, which is 6, plus b. Our goal is to solve for b, because we already have m. Once we have b, we can write the equation. So 2/3 times 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And so this is what we have. So to solve for b, we need to subtract both sides by 4. So negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. So we could see that m is 2/3, b is negative 7. So the equation is 2 over 3x minus 7, which is what we have above. So now you have two ways to find the equation in slope-intercept form. You simply have to pick the method that works better for you. Let's say that the slope is negative 3 over 4, and we have the point 27. Write the equation in point-slope form slope-intercept form, and standard form. Feel free to pause the video as you work out this example. So let's start with the point-slope equation. x1 is 2, y1 is 7. So it's y minus 7 is equal to m, which is negative 3 over 4, times x minus x1, which is 2. So this is the equation in point-slope form. So now let's distribute the 3 over 4. So we're going to have negative 3 over 4x. Now what's negative 3 over 4 times negative 2? 3 and 2 is 6, so it's 6 over 4, which we can divide by 2 to reduce it. Half of 6 is 3, half of 4 is 2, so it's going to be plus 3 over 2. And now let's add 7 to both sides. So we have y is equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 3 over 2 plus 7. 7 is the same as 7 over 1. So what we need to do is we need to get common denominators to add 3 over 2 with 7. So let's multiply 7 by 2 over 2. So we have negative 3 over 4x plus 3 over 2 plus 7 times 2 is 14, so 14 over 2. So now that the denominator is the same, we can add the numerator of the two fractions. So 3 plus 14 is 17. So this is the answer in slope-intercept form. It's negative 3 over 4x plus 17 over 2. So how can we convert the equation from slope-intercept form to standard form? So just like we did before, we're going to clear away the fractions first. So let's multiply everything by 4. So 4 times y is 4y. Negative 3/4 times 4. The 4's will cancel, and so it's negative 3x. And then what's 4 times 17 over 2? 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 17 is 34. So we have this. So now let's add 3x to both sides. So the equation in standard form is 3x plus 4y is equal to 34. So now you know how to convert between the different forms of a linear equation. Instead of a point and a slope, what if you're given 2 points? Let's say the point 1, 2 and the point 3, 8. How can you write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form given these 2 points? So the first thing you need to do is you need to calculate the slope between the 2 points. And you can use this equation to do so. It's the change in y divided by the change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to say 1 is x1 and y1 is 2, x2 is 3, y2 is 8. So it's going to be 8 minus 2 divided by 3 minus 1. So 8 minus 2 is equal to 6, 3 minus 1 is 2, and so the slope is 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Now that we have the slope, we can write the equation. Since we want it in slope-intercept form, let's use the slope-intercept form, or the slope-intercept equation, to get the job done. So all we need is a point and a slope. We're going to use the slope, and we're going to choose this point because the numbers are smaller. So y is 2, m is 3, x is 1. Let's solve for b. So let's subtract both sides by 3. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1, so b is equal to negative 1. Now that we have the value of b, we can write the equation in slope-intercept form. So all we need to do is plug in m and b into the equation. So y equals m, or 3x, plus b, or plus -1. So the equation is 3x minus 1. And we can check to see if it works. If this equation works, it has to contain these 2 points. So if we replace x and y with 1 and 2, both sides of the equation should have the same value. So let's replace y with 2 and x with 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 equals 2, so this works. Now let's check the other point. So let's replace 8 with y and 3, or x with 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 minus 1 is 8. So this works too. Therefore, this is the correct equation because it contains both of the 2 points. So now let's try another problem like that. Let's say if we have the point -1, 1 and the point 2, 3. Find the slope and write the equation in point slope form, slope intercept form, and standard form. So this is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's 3 minus 1 over 2 minus -1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus -1 is the same as 2 plus 1. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So therefore the slope is 2 over 3. So now we need to use the point slope equation. So I'm going to use the point -1 and 1 in addition to the slope. So the equation is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So y1 is 1, the slope is 2 over 3, and x1 is -1. So negative times -1, whenever you have two negative numbers next to each other, it's going to change into a positive number. So -1 is x plus 1. Now let's distribute the 2 over 3. So it's going to be 2 over 3x plus 2 over 3 if we distribute it to x plus 1. So now let's add 1 to both sides. So y is equal to 2 over 3x plus 2 over 3 plus 1, which I'm going to write it as 1 over 1, since we need to get common denominators. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3 over 3. Now the last thing we need to do here is we need to add 2 over 3 plus 3 over 3. 2 plus 3 is 5, so it's 5 over 3. This is the equation in slope-intercept form. And I forgot to mention that we had the equation in point-slope form. If you rewind the video, it's y minus 1 is equal to 2 over 3 times x plus 1. We had that earlier, but this is the equation in point-slope form. So now let's write the equation in standard form. So we need to get rid of the fractions. So let's multiply everything by 3 in this equation. So 3 times y is 3y. 2 over 3x times 3. The 3's will cancel, and so it's going to be 2x. And 3 times 5 over 3 is simply 5. Now all we need to do is subtract both sides by 2x. So the equation is -2x plus 3y is equal to 5. So this is the equation in standard form. Now let's move on to parallel and perpendicular lines. Consider these two equations. 2x plus 3 and 2x plus 1. Now, these lines, would you say they're parallel or would you say they're perpendicular? Notice that they have the same slope, 2. Whenever you have two lines with the same slope, these lines are parallel lines. If you plot the first equation, it has a y-intercept of 3 and it has a slope of 2. So I'm just going to draw a rough sketch. It's going to look something like that. The other line, the y-intercept is at 1, but it has the same slope, which means that it's going to be parallel to it. So these two lines will never intersect. A perpendicular line, on the other hand, is going to form a 90-degree angle with the blue line. So the slope of the blue line is 2, or 2 over 1. The slope of the perpendicular line is the negative reciprocal of that line. It's negative 1/2. Whenever you have a line going up, the slope is positive. Whenever the line is going down, the slope is negative. If you have a horizontal line, the slope is 0. And for vertical lines, the slope is 1 over 0, or undefined. It could be 2 over 0, 3 over 0, it's still undefined. Whenever you have a line that increases at a 45-degree angle, the slope is exactly 1. If it's increasing less than a 45-degree angle, it's less than 1. This could be like 1/2. If it's increasing more than a 45-degree angle, it's going to be greater than 1. This slope could be about 2. And over here, if it's going down at a 45-degree angle, it's a negative 1. So whenever a function is increasing, if it's going up as it goes to the right, the slope is positive. If it's going down as it goes to the right, the slope is negative. Those are some things to know. Consider these two equations. 3x minus y plus 2 is equal to 0. And 2x minus 3y plus 1 is equal to 0. Are these lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So we need to find the slope. Let's solve for y. For the first equation, I'm just going to move y from the left side to the right side. It's going to switch from negative y to positive y if you do that. So we have the equation y is equal to 3x plus 2. So the slope for this line, it's 3. Now for the other one, I'm going to move the 3y to the other side. So it's 2x plus 1 equals positive 3y. And then I'm going to divide everything by 2. I mean, not by 2, by 3. And then I'm going to reverse it. So y is equal to 2 over 3 x plus 1/3. Because the slopes are different, it's not parallel. Now, let's find the slope of the perpendicular line. We need to flip the fraction. It's going to be 3 over 2 instead of 2 over 3. And instead of being positive, it's going to be negative. Negative 3 over 2 is not the same as 3. So these lines are not perpendicular. They're neither or neither. Consider these two equations. 2x minus 5y minus 7 equals 0. And 10x plus 4y minus 3 equals 0. Describe the relationship between these lines. Are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? What would you say? So let's solve for y in both cases. For the equation on the left, I'm going to add 5y to both sides. So it's going to be 2x minus 7 equals 5y. And then I'm going to divide every term by 5. And I'm going to reverse the equation. So y is equal to 2 over 5 times x minus 7 over 5. So we could see that the slope is 2 over 5. Now for the other equation, I'm going to keep 4y on the left side. I'm going to move the 10x and the negative 3 to the right side. If I move the 10x from the left side to the right side, it's going to change sign. It's going to convert from positive 10x to negative 10x. And the negative 3 is going to change into positive 3. So now I'm going to divide everything by 4. So y is equal to negative 10 over 4 x plus 3 over 4. So the slope is negative 10 over 4. But we can reduce that. We can divide both numbers by 2. Half of 10 is 5. Half of 4 is 2. So notice that the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Therefore, these two lines are perpendicular. Now, let's say if you're given a question like this. Write the equation of the line that is parallel to the line y equals 2x minus 3, and that passes through the point negative 1, 4. How would you write the equation of the line? And let's write it in slope-intercept form. The first thing you need to do is find the slope of this line. It's 2. And so the slope of the line that you want to find is also 2 because it's parallel to the line y equals 2x minus 3. So we have the slope and the point. Let's use the slope-intercept equation. So let's replace y with 4, m with 2, x with negative 1, and let's solve for b. So 4 is equal to negative 2 plus b. Let's add 2 to both sides. And so we can see that b is equal to 4 plus 2, which is 6. So now that we have the value of b, we can write the equation of the line. It's going to be 2x plus 6. And so that's the answer in slope-intercept form. Try this one. Write the equation of the line in point-slope form and slope-intercept form if it's parallel to the line 2x minus y plus 5 is equal to 0, and it passes through the point 5, negative 2. So first, we need to write it in point-slope form. So let's get the slope. To do that, we need to change this equation into slope-intercept form. So let's solve for y. Since we have negative y on the left side, let's add y to both sides. So it's going to be 2x plus 5. If y is negative on the left side, it's going to be positive on the right side. So we can see that the slope of the line is 2. So now we're going to write the equation in point-slope form. So let's use this equation. y1 is negative 2, x1 is 5. So y minus y1, which is negative 2, equals m, which is 2, times x minus x1, and x1 is 5. So y minus negative 2 is the same as y plus 2. So this is the equation in point-slope form. So now let's convert it to slope-intercept form. Let's distribute the 2. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 5, that's negative 10. So now let's subtract both sides by 2. So it's going to be 2x. Negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12. So this is the equation in slope-intercept form. If you plug in 5 for x, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 12 is this number, negative 2. So it works. Here's another problem for you. Write the equation of the line that passes through the point negative 3, negative 4, and that is perpendicular to the line 3x minus 4y plus 7, which equals 0. So the first thing we need to do is find the slope of this line. So let's add 4y to both sides. So it's going to be 3x plus 7 equal to 4y. So to solve for y, let's divide every term by 4. So if we reverse the equation, y is equal to 3 over 4x plus 7 over 4. So the slope of this line is 3 over 4. Therefore, the slope of the perpendicular line is the negative reciprocal of 3 over 4. So it's going to be negative 4 over 3. This is the slope that we need to use. So we need to use this point and negative 4 over 3. So let's write the equation in slope-intercept form. Let's start with y is equal to mx plus b. So m is negative 4 over 3, x is negative 3, and y is negative 4. So the 3's will cancel, and then we have negative times negative 4, that's positive 4. So 4 plus b is negative 4. To solve for b, we need to subtract both sides by 4. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8, so b is negative 8. Now that we have the value of b, we can write the equation. Y is equal to the slope, which is negative 4 over 3 x, and b is negative 8. So this is the equation in slope-intercept form. Consider the graph. If you're given a graph, how can you write the equation of the line? What would you do? The first thing I would do is look for the y-intercept. Notice that the y-intercept is negative 3. The second thing I would do is calculate the slope from the graph. So I would identify 2 points that I know for sure what the x and y value are. So for this one, I could see that x is 2 and y is 1. And for this point, it's 0, negative 3. So you can look at the rise. The rise is 4 units, and the run is 2 units. The slope is rise over run. So that's 4 over 2. Therefore, the slope is 2. Another way you can find a slope is simply using this equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, since we have 2 points. So let's say y2 is 1. We're going to say this is x2 and y2, and this is going to be x1 and y1. So it's going to be 1 minus negative 3 divided by 2 minus 0. 1 minus negative 3 is the same as 1 plus 3, and that's 4. 2 minus 0 is 2. 4 over 2 gives us a slope of 2. So now we can write the equation of the line. So using the equation y is equal to mx plus b, we can see that m is 2 and b, the y-intercept, that's negative 3. So the equation is 2x minus 3. Let's try another one. How can we write the equation of the line given the graph? So all you really need to do is identify 2 points. Here we have the y-intercept, which is 0, negative 4, and we have the x-intercept, which is 5, 0. So what we can do is find a slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Or you could just look at the graph. You can see that the rise is 4 and the run is 5. So rise over run, that means that the slope should be 4 over 5. But let's also use the equation, if you prefer it that way. Let's say this is x1, y1, and the other point is x2, y2. So y2 minus y1, that's 0 minus negative 4. x2 minus x1 is 5 minus 0. 0 minus negative 4 is the same as 0 plus 4, so it's 4 over 5. Now that we have the slope, we can write the equation. So the y-intercept is negative 4, so the equation is y is equal to mx plus b. or 4 over 5x minus 4. So that's it in slope-intercept form. But let's convert it to standard form. So let's multiply everything by 5. So 5y is equal to 4 over 5 times 5. The 5's cancel, so we just get 4x. And 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. So let's move a few things around. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the negative 20 to the left side. So if we move it from one side to the other, the sign will change from negative to positive. So on the left side, it's positive 20. And at the same time, I'm going to move the 5y to this side. The 4x is going to stay where it is. The positive 5y is going to become negative 5y on the right side. So this equation is in standard form. 4x minus 5y equals 20. What is the equation for this line? And also, what is the slope? The equation for a horizontal line is y is equal to a number. And it's wherever it intersects the y-axis, which is 2. So the equation is y is equal to. The slope for any horizontal line is always 0. And we can prove it. Pick any 2 points on this line. So let's choose the point 3, 2 and the point 0, 2. If you calculate the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, notice that the change in y will always be 0. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 is 2 minus 2. x2 minus x1, 3 minus 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. It doesn't matter what we have on the bottom. It's always 0. So we can choose any 2 points. The slope of a horizontal line will always be 0. Now, what is the equation for this line? So notice that it's a vertical line. And at any point on this line, the x value is always negative 3. So thus the equation is x is equal to negative 3. Now, what is the slope of a vertical line? The slope of a vertical line is always undefined because the denominator will always be 0. If you pick any 2 points, let's say if we pick the point negative 3, 4 and negative 3, 2. Let's calculate the slope. Let's say this is x1 and y1, and let's say this is x2, y2. So y2 minus y1, that's 2 minus 4. x2 minus x1, negative 3 minus negative 3, which is the same as negative 3 plus 3. So 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So anything with a 0 on the bottom is undefined. So no matter what 2 points you choose, you will always get a 0 on the bottom because the x values will always be the same if it's a vertical line. But this is the equation of the vertical line. And the slope is undefined, so just make sure you keep that in mind. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.